you have mastered the diaphragmatic breath, we're going to move on to the core connection breath. The core connection breath is the exercise component of the diaphragmatic breath. So we're going to take the diaphragmatic breath, and on the exhale, when your diaphragm and your pelvic floor, your transverse abs, they naturally draw in a little bit, we're going to actually engage those muscles further and draw that pelvic floor up more, draw that transverse abs in more. So this is the strength training component of the diaphragmatic breath. We're training the transverse abs, the pelvic floor. We're training these for strength. So first of all, in order to do this movement, in order to squeeze the pelvic floor, in order to engage the transverse abs, we need to be able to find the pelvic floor, find the transverse abs. We need to be able to isolate these two muscles. So first is pelvic floor. Pelvic floor can be really hard to find for a lot of women. We're not used to using these muscles intentionally. So you may need to practice this for a couple of days to really figure out where your pelvic floor is and figure out how do you turn on those muscles. So the pelvic floor is attached to the bottom of the pelvis. It's a series of muscles. This is where your three holes are. There are three vaginal holes, which is the urethra, where urine comes out, the vagina, and then the anus, where poop comes out. So we're going to go over the pelvic floor contraction first. So with the pelvic floor contraction, what you're doing is not only are you squeezing these muscles like you might have been told, like with a Kegel, not only are you squeezing these muscles, but you're also going to lift that pelvic floor up and in, up into your abdomen, okay? So I'm going to give you a few visual cues. Now I'm doing this sitting up so that I can speak to you better, but it's going to be a lot easier if you lie down. So go ahead and lie down on your mat, on the floor, on the bed. Remember, lie on your side and then roll over. All right. So while I'm sitting up to talk to you, you can be laid down. You can close your eyes and just listen to what I say and try to feel this pelvic floor. So, all right, so where is the pelvic floor? What you can do is, if you're sitting, go ahead and sit up. I want you to sit crisscross applesauce, rock from side to side. And you're gonna feel those two sits bones, those two bones that you're kind of rocking in between that you're sitting on. All right, your pelvic floor is in between those two sits bones. All right, so stop rocking. See if you can use those muscles to generate tension, generate a force that would bring those two sits bones together. So think about bringing these two bones together. All right, can you do that? Do it on your exhale. So take an inhale, breathe in, now breathe out, and try to squeeze those two sits bones together. Now, as you're doing this, pay attention to other muscles that might be trying to help you out. Are your glutes squeezing? Are your abs kind of pulling you down as you try to squeeze these pelvic floor muscles? Pay attention to what other muscles. Are your leg muscles working? What other muscles are trying to help you out here? Having those other muscles help you out is perfectly fine at this stage, but I do want you to think about, in the long term, we want you to be able to activate these pelvic floor muscles on their own without help from your glutes and your thighs or any other muscles. So think about relaxing, take an inhale, exhale, and see if you can squeeze those muscles and bring those sits bones together. All right, so that's the first aspect of the pelvic floor. Now the next aspect, I want you to rock forward and back this time. So as you rock back, you're gonna kind of feel a bone back here that you're leaning on and pivoting on. As you lean forward, you're gonna feel some pressure up here at the top of the vagina. So your pelvic floor is also between these two landmarks, okay? So as you rock back and forth, what you're rocking on in between your pivot, you pivot, You pivot in between these two pivot points is your pelvic floor. Okay, so now you can stop rocking. Now we're gonna inhale, and as we exhale, we're gonna generate a force that would bring the top of this pelvic bone right here all the way back to your butt bone, all the way back to the coccyx, back here, the bone that you're rocking back and forth on. So try to draw these two pivot points. Try to draw them together with your pelvic floor muscles, all right? So we're gonna inhale, we're gonna exhale. Try to draw those two bones together, your pelvic bone up here and your butt bone back here. Try to draw them together. All right, so just like when we did our other pelvic floor contractions side to side, think about what muscles are helping you here. Are your glutes clenching? Are your legs are your knees drawing up and clenching? What's happening in the rest of your body? And that's perfectly fine for now as you're learning your pelvic floor, but over time, you're going to want to focus on relaxing these other muscles as you build up strength in the pelvic floor and only using the pelvic floor muscles to squeeze. All right, so now you can also picture your pelvic floor as a diamond shape, all right? It's a diamond shape right here. Now, as you breathe in, that diamond is going to expand and get larger. And as you exhale, that diamond is going to come back together, all right? So think about that as you breathe. Think about inhaling and the diamond gets bigger. Right down here on your pelvic floor. And then you exhale, the diamond comes back together. So you can close your eyes and just visualize that. Another way to think about the pelvic floor. Think about contracting the 3 openings in your pelvis. So think about stopping the flow of urine, okay? Think about squeezing your vagina shut, and then think about closing your anus as if you're trying not to pass gas, all right? So those three openings, try to close them all. Use your muscles on your exhale. On your inhale, those muscles can relax. On your exhale, close all of your vaginal holes, all of your vaginal openings. Okay, think about the pelvic floor as a clock. So we have 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So you want to bring 12 and 6 together. So think about closing this, squeezing this way. And then you want to bring 3 and 9 together. So squeeze that way, all right? So we're just squeezing this whole diamond as we exhale. As we inhale, remember everything relaxes, the umbrella opens, diaphragmatic breath. As we inhale, as we exhale, everything comes back together, and then you're going to give this pelvic floor a nice good squeeze. Make that diamond get really small. And then the next thing you're going to do, as you're squeezing that diamond, you're going to suck it up into your abdomen. So we're lifting this pelvic floor. Not only are we squeezing it, but we're lifting it upward as we exhale. Very important that you're doing this on the exhale, not holding your breath and not doing it on your inhale. So this is going to feel a little awkward. You may have never done this movement before. Think about picking up a blueberry with your vagina and just sucking it up into your stomach. So you're going to inhale, relax. Now you're going to exhale, tighten up that pelvic floor. Make that diamond get real small. And now lift it up. Suck up a blueberry with your vagina. Suck it right up to your belly button. Lift that pelvic floor. Okay, you can think about If your vagina was sucking a milkshake and it's really, really thick and it's trying to get it up through the straw and you have to suck really hard, so that's kind of the pulling motion. So you're gonna inhale, everything relaxes, exhale, and suck up that milkshake, suck up that blueberry, suck up the marble, whatever cue can get you to turn on that pulling motion. All right, so we squeeze, we make the vaginal diamond, we make it real small and tight, and then we squeeze it, we pull it upwards into our stomach. And that's your pelvic floor contraction. So every connection breath is gonna start with a nice relaxing inhale, and then the exhale is gonna be initiated by the pelvic floor contraction. The pelvic floor contracts first. All right, so if we think of it like a zipper, the pelvic floor is the part of the zipper you work on first, and then you're gonna zip up through the transverse abdominis, bottom up. So we're zipping our pelvic floor, and then we're gonna zip up through the transverse abdominis. All right, so now you've got that pelvic floor contraction. Now we're gonna move on to our transverse abdominis contraction. And again, you can be laying down throughout all of this. It's more difficult in the sitting up position, so start laying on your back. So what you can do if you're gonna lay on your back is get a hand towel and roll it up. And we're gonna put this under your lower back where that lumbar curve is. We want to maintain that neutral pelvis alignment. We want to maintain that lower back curve. We always want to preserve the curve when we're doing these exercises. All right, so lay on your back. Stick this towel underneath here so that when you're breathing, we don't want you to flatten your lower back. We don't want you to tug this pelvis under while we're doing this. So put a towel underneath there to help preserve this lower back curve. All right, so from here, you can breathe in, breathe out, engage that pelvic floor, make that diamond get smaller, suck up the blueberry into your stomach, pull up that pelvic floor, squeeze and lift. Pay attention to what muscles are helping you out here. Are your glutes squeezing and trying to help you out? Are your adductors bringing your knees together? What's going on with the rest of your body? Are your shoulders lifting? Is your jaw really tense and stiff? So pay attention to those helper muscles and think about over time you're gonna work on loosening and relaxing all the other muscles and only doing the pelvic floor lift with your pelvic floor. Okay, so now for the transverse abdominis contraction. As you exhale, you're gonna initiate that exhale with the pelvic floor contraction and lifting, and then you're gonna zip up through this transverse abdominis. Remember, the transverse abs run like a sheet of muscle. They wrap around you like a corset. And so what we're gonna wanna do is start at the bottom. Now, the pelvic floor and the transverse abs are very much related. As you squeeze that pelvic floor, that's also going to start engaging this lower transverse abdominis. The transverse abdominis actually is made in like 3 segments. So it's one sheet of muscle, but there's 3 parts to it: the lower part, the middle part, and the upper part. Each of those segments can actually operate on its own. So you could tighten the lower part and leave the upper part relaxed. Each segment can operate independently of the others. So we're gonna talk about zipping up through the lower part. Once that gets nice and tight, then you're gonna do the middle part and then the upper part. So You can do this laying down. It'll be easier for you laying down. I'm just doing it sitting up because it's easier for me to talk to you and look at the camera in this upward position. So I'm gonna get up on my knees. Okay, so you breathe in, everything relaxes. You breathe out, pelvic floor squeezes, pelvic floor lifts up, and now we're gonna get to this lower transverse abdominis. So think about these muscles right here, all right? If you put your hands right here, you're gonna feel these two hip bones right here. So what you wanna do is think about generating a force that's going to bring these two bones together. All right, so think about these bones, put your fingers on these bones. Now try to bring your hands together with your muscles. Now, of course, you're not really going to close the bones, but you're generating a force that feels like you're bringing those bones together. Okay, you can use your hands, you can kind of push together here. Use your hands, okay? This is, you can think of these two bones as like an open book, and you're trying to close the book. On your exhale, remember? You can think about drawing in the area between your underwear line and your belly button. Think about this area, you're drawing it in and up. On your exhale. So we're gonna inhale, we're gonna exhale. You're gonna focus on that transverse abdominis, closing these two hip bones, bringing those bones together, closing the book. This is going to be very hard for a lot of us. And again, just like with your pelvic floor, think about what muscles are trying to help you out here. Are your knees coming in? Are you crunching upward and your rectus abdominis are trying to help you out here? Think about all the muscles that are also trying to help you out, and we're going to work on relaxing those muscles over time and just using the transverse abs here. Okay, so that's your lower transverse ab. Now we're going to move on to the middle section, the middle segment of your transverse abs. So right about your belly button, just kind of put your hands maybe a ½ inch to an inch away from your belly button on either side. Now we're going to, when we exhale, you're going to generate a force that's going to bring these hands together, all right? So think about what muscle deep inside your belly can you squeeze it together and bring these hands together. So think about breathing your hands towards your belly button. So we're going to inhale, now we're going to exhale. Use your hands here. It's very difficult if you've never done this before. And wherever you have, if you have diastasis recti, wherever your gap is largest, that's going to be the hardest area to engage with because you don't have that tension in your linea alba there. Your linea alba is stretched out and is not able to generate enough tension, so that's what we're going to work on. All right, and we're going to move up to the top section now. The top section is right below your ribs. It attaches to your ribs. So on your exhale, you're going to think about taking these ribs and knitting them together, bringing your ribs together. And we don't want to hunch over when we do this. Remember, the transverse abdominis is a lengthening muscle. It helps you maintain your length in your torso and stand up straight and sit up straight. So as we're doing this, as we're exhaling, we're engaging our transverse abs, we're getting taller. We're creating space in our midsection. We're not hunching over. That's your rectus abdominis, your six-pack abs pulling you downward. Your transverse abdominis elongate you. Okay, so we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to knit those ribs together. Breathe in, breathe out. okay? And you probably are gonna wanna be lying down for this if you're not already. So now what we're gonna do all of that together. So we're gonna do our whole entire connection breath, which is your inhale, everything relaxes, and then on exhale, you're gonna do the pelvic floor contraction, and you're going to do the transverse abs, lower and zip up. So you're gonna do the transverse lower, the transverse midsection, then the upper section, knit the ribs together. So you're gonna think about taking the diamond, your pelvic floor diamond, you're gonna make it small, make it tight, you're gonna lift it up, suck up the blueberry into your stomach. Within milliseconds of that, your lower transverse abs are gonna turn on. You're gonna think about bringing these two hip bones together. Within milliseconds of that, you're gonna think about drawing these hands in towards your belly button. Within milliseconds of that, you're gonna think about engaging the upper transverse abs and knitting the ribs together. All right, so I'm gonna lay down for this one as well. All right, so you're gonna inhale. Everything relaxes. The diaphragm umbrella opens up. Okay, now we're gonna exhale. Your pelvic floor, close the diamond. Now lift it up. You feel your lower transverse come on. Pull those hip bones in. Okay, come up to your belly button. Squeeze towards the belly button. Now come up and squeeze below the ribs. Knit the ribs together. All right, relax. I'm going to do that again. Relax. Now exhale. Relax and inhale. Now exhale. All right, use your hands. Use your hands as you come up to get that mind to muscle connection. So as you inhale, you relax. All right, now a couple things to look out for. Remember, we're elongating ourselves. We're creating space in this core canister. The transverse abs, it makes us taller. It makes us sit up taller. Also remember, we're not arching our back. We're not rounding our back either. We're trying to stay neutral as much as possible. Okay, so that's a lot. That's your core connection breath. The diaphragmatic breath plus an intentional engagement of the pelvic floor and transverse abs. So that's a lot to practice. So make sure you're following your exercise routine for this week, and it'll have it all broken down so you're not feeling overwhelmed with too much going on at one time. All right, I hope this helps. And remember, if you have any questions, if you're not able to feel that pelvic floor, if you're not able to feel the transverse, whatever the issue is, send me a message. We can do a video chat, or I can come see you, or you can come see me. We can meet in person. But yeah, this is very important to master. So I want you to work on this throughout the week, following your specific exercise routine. Thank you.